You are a news channel. I'm Annalouise, and this is my topic today, or better said, we are all news channels. We are continually transmitting news, maybe through our words, our speech, the way that we're presenting ourselves, and we can choose what our channel transmits. How would you feel about the regular news that you might see on television or on devices? What's your attitude to it? I think many people find the regular news quite negative sometimes, or sensational, and perhaps not balanced with all the amazing things that are happening in the world. It tends to hijack our minds into worry and fear. And yet there's so much amazing stuff happening, and we on our news channel can get to rebalance the equation and be owners of world news. We often put the power outside of ourselves, maybe by saying, oh, I don't like the way the news was presented, or it overly focused on this. Whereas if we bring it back to ourselves and feel, wow, the power of what's being broadcast is within me. That feels so good, because if we all take ownership for that, then the world will transform. I think there are a few elements of being our own news channel. It's like, what style would we like it to be presented in? So for me, that would be kindness and openness, balanced, optimistic. It would be motivating. So even when there were difficult things, there would be a sense that we're empowered to be able to be with that in a better way and to help in the ways that we can. So that's one, sort of the tonality of it. And then, of course, the other huge choice is around the content itself, what we choose to put our attention on. I think in all of our days, we're going to have a mixture of good things happening and bad things happening. And we can choose to focus on the bad by communicating them outwards, or focus on the good by communicating outwards. And I'm always curious how I feel differently if I do one or the other. So if I have something that is bad, in inverted commas, then if I talk about that, I notice that it sort of reinforces it into my system, and I don't feel better afterwards. Whereas if I either turn it around into a positive, or I just let it go and focus on something good, and when I catch myself nearly talking about that thing, go, actually I'm not going to bother talking about that, I can let it go and focus on something positive, I notice I feel much better on myself. And also I think has a potential to help other people feel more uplifted and positive too. The other thing about us being our own news channel is around timing. So first of all, we've had tonality. Secondly, we've had the choice of the news, the type of news we talk about. And thirdly, yes, timing. Many times I don't tell people about things when they actually happen. Because I have a sense that it wouldn't be helpful. And in perfect timing, I might communicate it or I might not. And that feels really good to me. It feels really good in terms of being caring. And it also feels good in terms of the energetic container that I wish to hold for myself. Because we can take responsibility for our own reactions to something, and other people will have their own reactions. And so if we want to really take care of our own reaction to something, we can just do that within our internal framework. Yeah, it feels very liberating in many ways. And obviously this doesn't mean that like when we need support or anything like that, when I need support, I'll reach out. But when I know that I am holding whatever news I have within myself in a way that's expansive and optimistic and supportive, then I often won't share it until the moment's correct. That feels like true, you know, that feels like, oh yeah, now it's resonant to share it. So what have we had? Let's review. We've had tonality, we've had content, we've had timing. What other things come up in your mind? The other thing that comes up for me is focusing on the local, focusing on things that we're empowered to change. Probably some of you have heard me talk about this before. The nature of our news is very unnatural. The fact that we get to hear about disasters all around the planet in this moment is very unnatural. Normally we would hear about just things that were going on around us in the past. And so it's an awful lot of potentially overwhelming news that can activate our systems, can promote worry and a lack of empowerment. Whereas when we focus on what's local, we can feel much more connected to it, much more able to be part of it, and much more able to feel solutions if there are things that need to be worked on. And focusing on the local takes us out also of just relaying news for news' sake. Do you know what I mean? Oh, did you hear that? X, Y, and Z happened, you know, on the big news. Did you hear that? Which often perhaps isn't very enlightening, maybe. So finding things local to us to share, whether that's personal, whether that's in our district, things that maybe inspire us, even small things like, wow, someone did a wonderful act of kindness for me yesterday. They brought me something, or they were checked in on me. Actually, 2 days ago, someone just knocked on my door and said hello. I hadn't seen her for a long time. It was like, oh, how sweet. And I happened to be feeling unwell, so it was just like, oh, how sweet to have someone knock on my door. It doesn't have to be big news, but it can give us that real lovely, warm feeling inside. What would you like your news channel to be like? How would you like your news channel to make other people feel? What change in the world would you like your news channel to inspire? What sort of stories would you like people to come to seek out from your news channel? You could always write those questions down and have a little ponder, because I think they're simple, but they're actually quite profound questions, aren't they? Because if we really do embrace this idea that every time we speak, every time we write anything, we are a news channel, and the power of that, it's internalizing that sense of responsibility and inspiration of what we can offer the world in every day. I would love you to share your comments below of what your news channel might be like. And yeah, obviously we all have different ways of sensory expressing ourselves. So you might express it through colour or sensations or feelings, or what flavours it might be like. Yeah, whatever way it comes to you, I'd be fascinated. And let's have an intention, if you're willing, to be the news channel we would like to see all around us over the next week, and particularly experiment with how people react when we share positive local stories about ourselves or about others around us, and notice how they respond. And then if we do go back into our habitual, or if it is habitual, of talking about perhaps the negative or bigger news, seeing how people respond then. What I notice when I do that is people tend to get hooked very easily into the negative news. It's just the way our brains are slightly wired. So it's very easy to say something in that vein, and then before you know it, it's very easy to be stuck in a rabbit hole, and it's like, oh, and the energy gets tighter and it gets closed and it doesn't feel so light and yummy. So I think becoming curious about where a conversation goes when we speak of certain things and where it goes when we speak of other things, and how that feels for both ourselves and for the other and for the direction of the conversation can be a really useful reminder. Like occasionally when I start talking about negative, and that's like, oh wow, yeah, I can feel this just doesn't serve my physiology or the physiology of the person I'm talking to. Yeah. So much love and inspiration, and if you haven't heard of it, you can sign up to the Good News Network. You can Google it, Good News Network. You get an email every day with good news from around the world. It's so lovely, and it's a wonderful thing to put our attention on, and also I often share those bits of news with people I think that might be interested. So it's really uplifting. I might pick out one, I think, oh yeah, so-and-so might be interested in that. There might be an environmental thing, or there might be something about animals, or whatever it might be. I can feel who might enjoy it, and I share it on to share the good news with the world. So that's a great organisation. Let's be our own wonderful news channels and light up this world with positivity and balance and love and compassion, inspiration and motivation. Do subscribe to the channel, and you can press the little bell for notifications, and please share this. The more people that you share this video with, the more good news you will get back, and it feels good to get good news back. Lots of love.